All right, everyone, welcome again to another No Gear Required podcast. I was here with me, Jason Patric. Today I have someone, to me, very special because he was a part of a lot of things I did in my life in terms of preparation for a fight. And he was my training partner. And man, he kicked my butt, pushing me so hard. Here I have someone that no need to present who he is. Everyone knows who he is, Jason Patric. Man, I can't believe I'm here sitting next to you, man. This is going back to my early days in Brazil watching movies. And I remember that Vampire, Lost Boys, and here I am sitting with this gentleman, man. Thank you for being here, Jason.
I'm very happy to be here because I haven't seen you in a long time, and I'm really, really happy to see you.
Man, and somehow I think that life make things happen. And I remember when I called Flavio, that is a common friend that we have, and I asked about all of you guys and say, where is Jason? And he was the one that gave me the phone, and I just keep bugging you until you answer. Like, I'm going to keep sending texts, and here we are. And Jason just nicely just respond to me and accept my invitation to be here, which I have a lot of questions about his early days in life, his movies, his favorite movies, or any one out there that kind of inspired him to be in this business. But man, I can't believe it. I'm still here. We gotta take a picture and ask him to autograph afterwards. Then, Jason, let me ask you this, man. How was your early days? What I don't know, because man, to me, you're one of the biggest guys in the business that I ever met, and I saw almost every single movie you ever did, which were a lot of movies. How was that growing up, and did you have that in mind to become an actor one day? What made you to take this route and be so successful?
Well, my dad was an actor and a writer, so I understood that there was a business out there, that there was a way to make a living like that. He was in his first movie was a pretty famous movie called The Exorcist. Now, he'd never been in a movie, and his first movie, which you could do back then, they hired people that were talented, not necessarily stars, and it was a massive blockbuster. Now, from there, his career didn't really go on because he made a lot of mistakes in his life, and there were a lot of addiction issues, and same thing with his writing. His writing never really sort of hit that sort of height. So I was aware of the business, but a part of me also probably rejected the idea because there was an assumption that you just do what your father would do. So I waited quite some time, for me anyway, to decide, pretty much graduating high school. And right before that, I figured I was going to give it a shot because it was an exciting or interesting time back then in the 80s. It was the first time that movies were about kids. Before then, kids were in movies, but they were rarely centered around them. And so there was an opportunity at that point in 84, 85 where the business changed, and I thought, I'm probably not going to go to college right now, and I'm going to see if I can make my way into this. But I wanted to do it on my own. I didn't want any help.
Man, that is awesome. And when did you, was your first experience, then you said, you know what, I think I can be pretty good in that?
Well, yeah, I think, I mean, you know this from doing a martial art and committing yourself to it. I always thought that I had something within me, but it takes hours and hours and days to sort of, and years to realize that through hard work. But there's something in you when you have a calling, I think. And I just, I understood certain things about movies, about material. And so I didn't want to do it just to do it and be famous and get chicks and all that, although I wanted plenty of chicks and all that. That comes with it. You wanted to be really good at it. You want to be, if I was going to be something, I wanted to be really good at it.
And man, I saw through your career, man, it's so diversified, the roles you play, completely different. Mm-hmm. And I don't know in how you kind of can be in that character, and suddenly in another movie is completely different than that character. Then another movie is nothing to do with the first two. How does that work for you? How can you get ready? Because I saw almost all your movies and very, very different one to the other.
Well, I was inspired by actors growing up in the 70s that did things that were very different. But I think it's like training, and I think that's why you and I got along so well. You train your mind and your body for that fight that's ahead of you. you never really change who you are because you're going to fight with your strengths, but you have to also prepare for the situation. And so I always did that physically and of course mentally with each character, because I wanted them to be that much different. But you're only playing yourself. You're playing a part of yourself that maybe you haven't realized yet, a part that you haven't shown yet, but you only can play who you are if you really want to be good. The trick is to sort of resequence your game, and that fits that character, that scenario, that script. And that's why I found it very similar to the sort of preparation and training that we did, or looking at it as a fight, what's in front of you, who you need to be, how you need to be. Being up early in the morning before work, 4 a.m, running in the dark, is similar to things that you do that I also do,
Because for a lot of people there that don't know how I ended up personally meeting Jason was in a very intensive time in my life. We have a friend in common, Flavio de Oliveira, was our personal trainer a few years ago, which still be our good friend. And he was one of Flavio's clients, and I was one of Flavio's clients. Then Flavio come up to me and said, "Man, I have this guy, and he's an actor, but he's 110% on his training. I think we should be all together because I think we're going to help each other pushing." And I never met you before. I knew who you were, evidently. Then here, Flavio invited you, and I remember the first few sessions, he was way ahead of me. It's like, man, I'm an athlete, and I'm doing this, and suddenly have somebody comes out, and we become good training partners in the most healthy way, pushing each other forward. And I had you for quite some time. Every training session, we did not know what Flavio has for us. Well, we're just both ready to go and do it. And I literally felt that, even though you're not fighting, you have that spirit of fighting that was exactly the way I was seeing, feeling. You had the same thing. And we're going through this very challenge training that Flavio presented to us, and you were right there with me, man, every single step of the way.
Well, you're being generous, because
that's true, guys. Because people expect, he's a celebrity, he's not. Hell no, put the celebrity aside. He did push the training, and I was past my limit. And he was right there. I said, in the beginning I was looking back, and said, I'm looking, he's ahead of me. It's like, how that can be? I have to do better now.
That's probably because you were wearing 15-pound weighted vest, and I got above you there for 100 yards. No, but the truth is that I'd always trained early on, because I think it helps your mind, and it certainly helps me acting-wise to get into a mode. But when I met you and working with Flavio, and Flavio's an amazing trainer, but you were the best athlete that I had seen and worked out with, because there was no quit. And you had already probably sparred 20 rounds before you'd show up at these things, and you'd do more afterwards. But I will say the training that we did was on an Olympic level.
I missed that a lot.
There was nothing like it.
I missed that a lot.
It was unbelievable.
We have to kind of reunite it to do it again.
It was amazing work. It was some of my greatest memories, without question, as far as training, and just the physical high that you get was you, me, and Flavio doing that stuff where you could barely walk afterwards. It was great.
How life is incredible, because then we realize is the moments that we live in. Sometimes when we are in, we might not appreciate as much as the time goes by, realize that was some of the best moments in my life, having that training and be real family. I felt like, man, we are very tight as a family, and we still do. Yes. That's for sure.
You have a martial arts background. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
I don't. I boxed a little because I've had to box in things, but I mean, just sparring and stuff, nothing.
Yeah, he choked me a few times after the training there. We spar a little.
But any jiu-jitsu training prior to meeting Jean Jacques?
Nothing. I mean, most of our training was to get him in shape for his jiu-jitsu, so we're talking unbelievable cross-training
like
that you can't imagine.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, with
easy.
weight, 700 reps with legs, and then running, and that's no exaggeration. And stuff that, people work out pretty hard in Golds. No one was doing this balanced training that made him into an animal, and I was just trying to tag along.
Yeah, man, and he did. He did tag along, and I was tagging along with him. That was the thing that pushed me so hard.
Have you done much after jiu-jitsu? since then?
I haven't, and I was actually talking to my son a while ago. He's 11, and saying I wish I had more time. At that time, we were always prepping him for his fights and getting ready. That I wish I had more time between my career and these workouts to just concentrate on doing something new like jiu-jitsu. I wrestled in school and things like that, but to really do it. Now I'm just an old man, so it's probably past my time.
Not at all, sir. Not at all. Let me ask you this, Jason. I heard, I don't know if that's true, that you were very, in a good way, selective on the projects that people present to you. And I heard that, and I don't know, and if you can evidently say, I heard that you turned down a movie called The Firm, that later on, I think was Tom Cruise who ended up playing that character. And because I'm in a law school, and I like the movie, everything that has related to lawyers. And how is that, like, for you to make selections, which movie you go, and I want to do more of this and less of that? I know how political and a lot of things that go behind the scenes that we don't have to talking about, but how is that for you to make that selections in movies? How do you see that?
Well, there's a lot of stuff out there. It is true, especially when I was younger, I was very, very selective, and I did turn a lot of things down. But there's also rumors about things being turned down. I mean, for example, The Firm and all that. The movie The Firm is The Firm because Tom Cruise is in it.
Yes.
He made that movie what it was. The script that I saw was not as good as what was ultimately made. And so it's not like I formally said I don't want to do that. It's just I didn't express a lot of interest. But when you say how you choose things, I never picked things early on for how it would build my career. I looked at it, and I looked at acting the same way. It wasn't like I'm going to be this actor. It was like that being an actor at this point in my life is something that I think will help me learn about life, learn about myself, travel, meet people. So I would look at it at 23. What do I have to say at 23? Does this character have anything to say at 23 that maybe I'm resonating with? And that's going to be different from someone when I'm 27. So, but I never looked at what can this part do for me. For me, it was what can I give to this part? Oh, look what I learned last year. This is an interesting director. This character and the relationship he has with this woman, I think I can say something about it in an honest way. And honestly, that's how I pick things. Because if you look, especially in the early days before I had to do things for the tax man or lawyers, I picked things. I would go have a successful movie, and I wouldn't work again for a year, sometimes 2 years. And that's death in my business, because you're supposed to keep your face out there for everyone. And I didn't do that. I honestly thought that, I'm a good enough player, I'm a good enough quarterback, I'm a good enough athlete that I could come back at 28 and someone's going to have something for me to do. And that worked for a while. And I'm proud of those choices. Now, there's misfires, and there's ideas of things that didn't come out the way you wanted them to, but that's life. And as you get older, as you know, and if you have a family, certain compromises have to be made. But as a young man who was doing this the way I wanted to do it, I can honestly say I didn't make many compromises.
No, I think it's very interesting is the confidence that you have on yourself. And evidently it's easy to say now, many years later, about choices we make on all of these, but I think in the point that you see that how can I give something to this character, that's something that very few people in the field will do it.
Well, you know what it is? I talked earlier, my father was an incredibly talented writer. He won a Pulitzer Prize, he won a Tony Award for his first play. His very first movie is one of the classic movies of all time. And the fact is he came from a small town in Pennsylvania, and as talented as he was not able to deal with this fame. And he didn't protect his gifts, and those gifts therefore waned. And I know you see it in your business. There's fighters who blow their gifts.
Yes,
they blow it.
Yes,
and a lot of it has to because look, there are a lot of physical specimens out there as fighters that are gifted, more gifted than us.
Yes,
but they have certain things. They get it, and then they don't protect it. And so because of that, I knew that just fame or the money was never going to be the answer to happiness, never be the answer to figure out what we're doing here on this earth. I knew that early because I saw it in front of me. And so I made those choices. And sometimes those choices, I put those fences out too far to protect myself. But I wanted to live a life of integrity in some way. And it's hard to do in this business because there's a bunch of bullshitters and people that are full of shit. And so, from my own instinct and training and hard physical exertion helps with that, because it brings you, as you know, after a great workout, to your physical self. Everything melts away. Now you just have this calmness, and this is who I am at this moment. And sometimes it's 4:30, in Paris, running around the Louvre because you got to work at 6. But then you just sort of look, and there's a peaceful moment. Okay, I know what I'm here for at this moment. And that's how I try to regulate my life as opposed to build a career.
And man, that is awesome, because it's so much truth behind that, and not everyone in your business has that capability to think like that. That shows integrity. And that's why I really like you, and you're my friend for all this time, because of who you are and you really are. And I know you play so many characters. Now let me see some, through all these years playing so many, you diversify so much in the roles that you play. Any of those, who would say you pick, what was your favorite play? And I'm sure maybe you have more than one. How was that? How is that? I felt that was something that I felt very good about it.
Funny enough, when I was 23, I did this movie called After Dark, My Sweet, where I played a boxer. I played a sort of punch-drunk boxer who'd already been one. And it was a great role. And I knew that whichever actor took that role, if they didn't really soar with it, they shouldn't have been an actor, because it was all there, all laid out. And so when I ended up getting it and doing it, I said, well, this is the testing ground for me. If I don't do what I think this guy should be, I'm not doing this game anymore, man. And I had good people around me, and it was a good project. And I felt from that, I achieved a part of myself I hadn't shown, and that was different. And then I said, I can do this. I can really do this in the way that I want to do it. And then after that, I did Rush, and then, things sort of rolled from there.
That was one of my favorite movies, by the way, Rush.
Oh, good.
Amazing movie.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you about that, too, because going back to what Jean Jacques said earlier, it's like, how do you process that? Because that was such a dark role.
It's hard. I mean, the truth is, I go back to what I said earlier, what do you want to show at some point? How was I? I was 24. So I grew a beard to look older, and, nobody was growing beards back then. The studio went nuts. We have to see his face. I said, no, this is the way it's going to be, man. And I had to change my body because I just played this boxer. So I remember at the time cutting most protein out because I'm pretty broad, and I wanted to knock the muscle down. And here I am playing a drug addict, but I'm the healthiest you could ever imagine, because I'm up at, 5:30, hitting the gym, doing everything to, get down to 162 or whatever the heck it was. But it is a dark place to be in, because that's not my life. I mean, I'm as healthy as can be, and I never experienced drug use like that. But once again, that movie had the potential to be something that had never been filmed before. And I remember telling the director, one of the things I said, look, I got to put a needle in my arm. And they were all worried. I said, look, that's never been done, but you want to get to that kind of visceral reality with this.
And it was, man. It was, and especially knowing who you are. It's like, who's that guy?
But I got a big reputation after that for being a drug addict, too, in the business, which hurt me, which is laughable. But I did it in a realistic way that, and since I refused to go out afterwards and show myself in People magazine sitting on my nice couch with the furry dog, you leave a palette open for people to paint what they want. And to me, it was just, fuck you. And then I just go on to the next thing. But it's a dark place to do it for 4 months, because you get in that mindset. So, yes, did I shoot heroin? No, but I have to find out what part of me would become addicted in a way that would become everything. So then you look in your life. What part of you is dark? What part of you has gotten to an edge that you could have passed off into? You mine those up. You put it to where you can focus it. And for me, especially back then, you live it in that method way. Now, as a father today, I couldn't do that part. And I've said that. Because there's a selfish abandonment for 4 months that you really have to do. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't do that to my son. So now it's a balance of what is my technique after all these years, and how can I find these things I did the work back then, so it's in me. So can I bring that up and still go home and be a dad afterwards? And in all honesty, that's a constant balance. That's what happens. That's how things change and morph as you get older.
Yeah, you evolve for sure.
And
You
man,
have to.
and I don't know. Also, I really like Narc.
Right. Yeah.
I have a chance to be invited by you, and I went to the premiere, and man, I just felt that I was right into, and again, knowing who you are and see the character is, man, that's not him, but that's him, and it was very, very intriguing. Show how good your technique actually is to switch from black to white and red to blue, and that was amazing.
It's hard, and you use technique, and I know you guys in jiu-jitsu, everyone has their own technique. You're all based on the same, depending on your art premise, but everyone adapts to their own technique within it, and that's how these new forms are born. It's nice to have that base that you have, and I've always felt, shit, I don't have a base. What the hell is my technique? Because every time something's new, I think, I don't even know what I'm doing. But somehow, through the process and work, the technique for me becomes new for each character. So there's something about it that's very frustrating, because you can't just go A, B, C, D, work on this roll, this hold, I'm going to do this arm bar. You wish it was, but somehow it sort of works out if it's good enough. But yeah, but technique, with me, it's something that's just accrued through years and years, and maybe it works. But you don't want it to rely on it, because then it also becomes a little fake.
Do you feel is in all these characters, I think you mentioned that you feel that it has a little bit of you in it as a kind of a foundation. And besides that boxer that you play, which one was that makes you work the hardest? It's like, man, this is very challenge for me. That challenged me in a way that I really need to work on this.
I think people that certain characters that have given up, or that there's a hate element or a lack of compassion element that runs through them. In order to play that, if you're playing someone who people consider a bad guy or a villain, what you never do is say, I'm playing the villain. You have to find reasons that this person thinks this way. And why do they act this way? And why do they believe it? It's not just people rolling their hands because that's a bore. And, so you can look into dark places of yourself where, if you're really being honest, you could say, if one or two things happen differently in my life, I could be there. One parent less, one mistake that happened, one little step that I lost everything and had desperately came back. So you find a way that makes this logic happen, which satisfies the story as the bad element, but you can never be playing that. You always have to like your character. When you're playing it, you believe in what he's saying and who he is and why he's saying it. And when you do that kind of commitment, that makes it rich, and people see a part of themselves even in the worst person. And that's why they're really scared of a villain. Not that he's going to come get him, but there's a part of yourself where you go, oh man, that twisted logic could work.
I heard that on an interview with I think it was Silence of the Lambs, one of those movies, but they interviewed one of the main villains, if you will, and that was the first thing he said. He goes, I don't look at the guy as a bad guy.
Can't.
And I thought that was actually pretty brilliant, because like you said, then you're giving an honest representation. How can you look at it? Because then you're placing judgment over something, and you can't really be as sincere as possible.
And you're playing adjectives.
Yeah.
Playing adjectives. Adjectives are something people can apply to you when they're watching, but you can't play that. That's a word. What you want to play is sweat. You want to play voice. You want to play movement, because the one thing, and it's interesting because you're Brazilian, sadly.
So you can't tell we're good friends.
But, that's why when you watch a foreign movie or use a foreigner, I mean, I don't know what age you spoke English, but you can relate to behavior, because there's a human aspect of behavior that we all know, even if we don't understand the language bits or what's going on. So my whole thing about acting, it's about behavior. Real behavior, and you sequence it for a character. My problem with most movies is most people act like they're in a movie now, and they're very aware what they're doing. And that's why it doesn't last, and much of it doesn't hold interest for me anymore.
And let me ask you this, is I think I read that you also were on Broadway.
Yeah, a couple times.
How is that challenge between both? Because is that similar? You have to prepare yourself a little different. How is that works for you?
You know, it is a different prep. And once again, I've always looked at things athletically or training. It's a different prep because in a movie, you're doing even the most intense scene you're doing once, and you may do a bunch of takes and a bunch of things, and then it's also largely out of your control. Someone's going to edit and put it together. But there is an honesty that you can't fake when the camera's that close. So it's a different challenge. Now, doing 3 hours 8 times a week on Broadway, having to hit in those moments all the time, 200 times maybe, in a run, it's a challenge because you know just from fighting, you're not always on your best day. But one goes by and you can't let it get you, and you got to get ready for the next round, But to me, being on Broadway, being on stage is the most exciting without question, because it's the audience. Now, when you're in a fight, you're absolutely concentrated on where you are, but you can't deny that the crowd and the energy and all that excitement
you can feel that.
Feels it and lifts your game up, and you respond to it. And it's the same thing, obviously when you're Broadway, the way they laugh, the way there's dead silence when it should be, and that's giving you some juice. And the same way when they're not laughing or this and that, it's my game off. So, but I like the camaraderie. I love the audience. I love being in New York. I love all of it. To me, and if I make it into another phase of my career or life, I'll do a lot more stage. Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome, man. Yeah. And if you can evident this, is there any stories that you can share in some of the movies that you've done that was funny, or something that was not supposed to happen that happened, and that you remember?
Well, I'm still really good friends with Kiefer, and we had a lot of fun, doing Lost Boys. And Lost Boys is a movie that, look, I did Lost Boys, and 2 years later, or 3 years later, I'm making Rush. I didn't follow that sort of teen career, but I have a fondness for the movie now because I think over years of time, I've met so many people that it's made a lot to their lives.
We're talking about 1984, 85, and
87, I think, yeah. And people all the time.
And I still remember, I think that was the first time I saw you in the movie.
I'm sure.
And I kept that in my mind until the day I met you, and I was talking to Flavio. I still see this movie because I was a young kid, and here we are. It's incredible how much that movie, to me, marked my life, and never believe one day I'll be sitting next to you and talking to you, and we work out together. I can tell people that I know you, I'm your friend. It's like, man, it's such a switch and hard to believe sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you one story on that is that, Corey Haim, who played my younger brother, and he's another cautionary tale, of what happens in Hollywood when that's going back to what I said before, one mistake, one different parent can lead a whole different life. This was a very talented, really sweet young kid. And in order to get that relationship that they had as brothers, which I think really happens in the film, one of the reasons I think the film lasts is it's very well done, but there's a familial aspect that everyone's felt, a brother thing, an outsider thing, a wanting to be part of something, breaking away from your parents, all that stuff. But I spent a lot of time with Corey, Joel Schumacher, the director. I said, I want to spend a lot of time with him so you really believe these guys are brothers, not just that we say we're brothers. You believe them. And I did. I spent a lot of time with him. Came to my house, take him to the beach, things like that. And one day on Warner Brothers, we filmed it on that lot. I was walking around and talking to him, and they had all these golf carts there, that people go back and forth to the stages and stuff. And we just hopped in and just, I guess, stole someone's golf cart, and we're driving all around. And I say stole because after whipping in and out and laughing, a police car was behind us, a studio police car. And to me, I thought it was a joke, like a fake police car on the lot. And they pulled us over, and he was driving, and asked us what we were doing. And I think out of just rebelliousness, he didn't tell them that we were working on a movie. To which I said, of course we're working on a movie. And he said, no. We had, of course, no ID on us. And they brought us to the Warner Brothers jail, whatever that was, on the lot. To which I found hilarious because this is a fake jail. Are we going to fake bread and water? But it was a real detention area, and we had to wait there until they got the director on the phone. That because there's no cell phones back then or any of that stuff, and he came and got us out of there. And he acted as if he was really disappointed and apologized to the fake studio cops, and you know, had a sort of consternation towards us. But once we got out, he was laughing because he liked the idea that formed some sort of bond.
Yeah, it was a brother adventure right there.
Yeah.
If I ever heard one, for sure.
Whipping around, and I just couldn't stop laughing. Is this a real cop behind us with a light? And I guess
It
he's
turned
studio
out to
cop.
be a real one.
Yeah, it turned out to be.
And is that what was to you in all the movies that you did? I'm sure a lot of them, I think they have their input, but the ones that really mark something on you as a person. Say, man, this movie it touched me somehow more than the other ones.
Well, I think that After Dark, My Sweet, and then Rush after that, because they significantly sort of proved to me that I could go to areas that other actors weren't going to at the time, I thought, and that I needed to prove to myself. I thought those were, I think Narc is another one, because it was made for no money, and I don't think anyone believed in it. And I think
was you and Ray Liotta, right?
Yeah, and Ray, I think Goodfellas and Narc are Ray's best performances, and I think they're very different. And he was great, and we're very different actors, completely different actors. And on Narc is one of those things where I didn't really hang out with them who weren't working, because those characters are learning about each other as the movie goes along, and they're suspecting each other and they're understanding. And I wanted that same thing too, because there's sort of an internal thing when you don't really know someone and you have to work with them. You're absorbing who they are and understanding who they are. You don't have a comfort level that you've just been hanging out for the weekend. And so I thought that helped those characters and their dynamic. And I like to stay in that mode. I mean, it's not that we were discourteous to each other, but the connection that we would have would be when we're filming. And I think that really helps. And I think that movie holds up. So that's one.
And turned out to be an awesome movie. And since you are from a prior generation, I mean, you've been around for 30 plus years in this business. What are the difference back when you beginning of your career and you see on today's time?
It's big. There's a lot. Yeah. I think that in all honesty, it's not as an exciting business as it is anymore. There used to be a bit more of a fraternity with actors, just like our connection happened through real committed friendship, but also working towards something. And back then, there was a little more of that, young actors, changing what the business was and working with each other over time. I think that actors were much more individualized then and able to be themselves. You look at something like you mentioned Lost Boys, look who's in that movie. A new Kiefer, a new myself, a Corey Haim, a Corey Feldman, Diane Wiest, an Oscar winner, Ed Herman. These were very good actors, and the young people were very specific. There's no Corey Haim out there anymore. Everything now is very cookie cutter. Everything's very safe. They are concerned with putting people in movies that you've already seen, so that there's no risk. Everyone's risk averse, and that just hurts the creativity. And I think just the amount of streaming and social media has really destroyed any mystery of anybody.
Exactly.
You used to go to a movie to see what somebody looked like.
Yes.
Oh, what's Pacino going to look like in this movie? Oh, what does he sound like?
There's no surprise anymore.
There's no surprise. Nobody wants a surprise. They want you to register a like as they show you a picture of their fucking donut.
It's like almost the person has to become known on social media.
That's
to
right.
Actually be part of a project.
It's the old adage that Warhol said, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. And it's true, but now it's 15 seconds. And it's very easy to be famous for nothing. And that's a problem.
What would you say to someone out there that thinking about to become an actor, thinking about what steps they should take, that you see that will give as an advice to someone?
You know, it's hard to give advice because, you know, I've certainly made mistakes, and I've also made some really good choices. And I don't know if advice necessarily applies to a different human. What I would say, and also because the business is so different, I'm not so sure that I could instruct someone. What I would say is what I said back then to myself is, know why you're going into something. I don't care whatever it is. Know exactly why you're going into something and try to follow that. Now, I didn't go into this business for just fame, money, and all that stuff, but I'm not in any way talking down to people who did. If that's what they wanted for whatever reason, misguided or not, great, and follow that path to get what you want. But if you're going into it now and it's for artistic expression, if it's because you have some gift that you feel needs to be expressed in what movies are or what television are, understand what that is and stick with what that is, and then adapt to the situation. But don't forget why you got into something. Don't let someone else tell you why you're in something. And I always refused to do that at 19, and that's one of the things that I will say that I'm proud of. No one's going to tell me why I'm doing something. If I make a mistake, I got myself to blame. And if I achieve something, I pat my own back. But you're not going to tell me what to do or why to do it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to listen to people.
Oh, no, I understand.
But understand why you're getting into what you're doing. Never lose that, and then figure a way to do it in the business. And if you work hard enough and you're talented, I think you'll find a space.
What is out there that you're looking for to do in the business? Is there anything that you're aiming, or any projects that you still in works to be done?
I'll be very honest, Jean Jacques. I don't really know, because I don't find the business very exciting or interesting or groundbreaking in the way it was, you know, when I was there. I find it safe and formulaic. That being said, I've had a lot of life experience that I think I could bring some of those honest things that I've always tried to do.
Man,
so.
You said something that was so true, and I never realized about. No surprise anymore. That's so true. The social media took that away.
Everything.
And
You know everything about everybody in a fake way, because it's not really who they are. They're appropriating behavior that they think is popular, which is very bad for a youthful mind anyway. You're supposed to find yourself. But now when I think I can find a way to be popular, is very different than finding yourself.
And through your life and your career, is any names out there that you saw and like, man, I kind of inspire me to follow my career? Anyone that calls your attention for?
Well, growing up in all those early films, you know, watching Pacino and De Niro and, of course, Brando, and all those movies that were coming out at a time where there was social upheaval and people sort of breaking the norms. Those great 70s movies. I think Narc works because it's a throwback to those 70s type movies without copying it. It's unapologetic. These are these people. These are the problems that they are. And so those people, and then you know, there's personal people in your life, whether it be a relative, a grandmother, a mother, a priest. Those people, if you're really in tune to who you are, have just as much effect on you as any sort of famous person, even though you may be going into the same realm as them. And so, you know, I've been very fortunate to have good people in my life and meet very interesting people that propelled me forward in what I did in my craft, even though they weren't part of my craft. And in that case, you were one of those people too, because at that time period, you know, I was, you know, I guess in my early 30s, and it's now, what's the next phase going to be? But you connect with someone, you learn who they are, what their culture is, what you and I were fighting for different things, but we're doing the same thing at the same time.
Exactly.
And that is what I wanted to do when I got into it at 18. Meet interesting people, have life experiences that move me along. And if movies do it, okay, I'll keep doing these till it moves me along. And if it doesn't, then I won't.
And I have a question that I always ask everyone that comes here, and who is Jason Patric?
That's the big question, isn't it? That's the big question. That's the big evolving question. And the only real honest I can give you, unparalleled without any question, is I'm data. That's the only thing I can honestly say.
And I always say to a lot of people that I'm very fortunate to meeting you years ago and have you as a close friend, because working out, going through this whole process wasn't easy. It messes up a lot of our head and a lot of our confidence. But as we said, we know it's so important to surround yourself with good people, and it's something that it's like energy that your body detects from people, and get to know you, who you really are, and something that a lot of people sometimes see a movie and think the person is exactly that character in the movie, which I think it's a lot of mistake on that. And I was very fortunate to meet you and get to know you behind the scenes of who you are. And I can tell that you are a kind of guy that anyone wants to have as a friend. Even though we lost a few years to get back here. And I think somehow life made me start doing this, and I'm literally reconnecting to all my friends that has a mark in the process of my life that was part of a lot of the achievements that I have. Even if you did not know back then, but I wanted to know now that it was really important to have you as a training partner and as a friend. And I remember going back there, if I'm not wrong, part of you is Irish.
That's right.
Because I think it was one of your birthdays. I end up in a pub in Santa Monica, even though I don't drink, but everybody's having a great time. And I look around like, what am I doing here? Just Jason, he did it.
Well, I drank for you that night, man.
And I remember, I think we have a karaoke and people singing, have a great time. But I remember that you have that Irish blood in you.
That's right, all Irish.
Oh man, I don't know. Jay, you have more questions to this gentleman, because I can't believe he's still sitting here and talk to him.
Yeah,
talk to me.
Like Jean Jacques said, because we're about the same age, and yeah, I remember when Lost Boys came out and all that, and growing up here in LA, and even I had friends that were aspiring to break into the business, and so you kind of study that a little bit. And then the scene, like you said, I mean, all that, the 80s was the decade. That was when the youth.
I miss those times, those movies.
It was great.
A lot.
But the one thing that I remember, it didn't happen a lot, but, that's why I think Rush just resonated, was I remember seeing you and having this perception of you, and then this movie comes out and you're a completely different person. And I was like, whoa, it was so dark and so intense. And then you made another movie. I think it was Sleepers or something not too far after that. Right. And then everything just, it's like a basketball. I just didn't know what was going to come next from you. And to me, that's acting. That's the craft of, just like you said, you kind of mold yourself into the work and you express yourself honestly, and then move on to the next project. So it always made it so much fun to follow your career.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. I mean, I'm glad that it worked that way. That was the intention most of the time.
Yeah, I'll be honest, and I can't wait to see you in another project, another movie, and I'll bring back to me so many of the great things that you did. And one thing that is really cool, I got the movie and said, man, I know this guy. He's my friend. I have a picture of him. I can show you right now. I'm
going to deny it, man. That's all Photoshop. You know that.
Well, what's funny is the glasses almost look the same.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm wearing these. These are prescription. I can't really see very well.
No, but I mean, remember, honey, take the glasses off.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jason, man, I don't know how to say thank you to you for
you already did. You already did.
Being here
did.
and
no.
Making this possible.
You gave me so much more, and I'm so happy to see you guys.
Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thank you. Great meeting you.
Really,
thank you.
Sure.
And I can't wait for call you back since you start your next project to say, hey, Jason, let's do it.
I'll let you know.
Thank you, brother.
It's good to see you, buddy.